Hello to everyone and welcome. This video, as you can see, will be a discussion on the upcoming new moon in Scorpio and solar eclipse occurring October 25th, 2022. And what I hope to present to you today are how the planets, the signs, the numbers, and the tarot cards are all interrelated, all woven into the energy that we're going to be discussing today. It is my hope that with all of this information, there will be a unique narrative of how these energies can play out on a personal level and also on a global level. And we will be exploring how the numbers and the corresponding tarot cards are really insightful and symbolic, and we can utilize their images and their meaning maybe to see what is the best way, the best direction to go about during the changes of the eclipse. Now, astrologers do say that eclipses usher in change, evolutionary change, and a new moon presents opportunities to venture into a new direction. And by looking at the sign in which it is occurring in, which of course is Scorpio, we will get, again, a sense of purpose and direction. The first thing we know is Scorpio relates to the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of death, sex, rebirth, regeneration, inheritance, other people's finances. I immediately want to put in my disclaimer because I will be talking about the collective and global events. I see changes in there's going to be a correction. We already see some correction in the financial area, but I see further correction with the solar eclipse happening. Again, this is for entertainment purposes only, and I am not trying to give anyone advice right now on what to do with their finances. Okay, so Scorpio by nature implies change, implies regeneration, but as a solar archetype, it also represents the transmutation, if you will, of inferior qualities, or possibly the casting out of anything that inhibits growth or inhibits change or inhibits renewal. So there is that it'll either transform it or it will push it out. Remember, we have rulers of the sign Scorpio, which are Pluto, the underworld, and of course Mars, which we will talk about a little later on, that are all very energetic and forceful in nature. So we're looking at whatever inhibits growth right now being transformed. And if it no longer serves our purpose, then we need to look at that. That is something that this new moon is making us see. It's also asking us to look at our deepest fears, to look at what is ahead of us that we may not understand. There's a little bit of trepidation there, and we want to know the truth, and we want to see it for what it is. That is not accessible at this time because we have other factors that are inhibiting. Currently, astrologically, we have the planet Mars that is squaring Neptune, the illusion, and we're seeing even in the financial market where we have one day up, one day down. It just can't make up its mind. I also want to say that Neptune relates to oil and gas, and let's look at that push and pull that is occurring now on the world stage with different countries. All of that are factored into the change, the struggle, the resistance that we are seeing throughout the world on a very global area. So I also want to note that with Pluto, things may be, whatever is inhibiting our evolution may be taking down. We are in a process of taking things down. There could be a demolition of sorts in order to clear away and start again. There's also energy for everyone. And I say energy, this is the good time for people to look at their partnerships, to kind of look at their relationships and their financial security and what changes they want to do right now, maybe shore up to ensure that things will be taken care of, not to let those things go. All right. With all of that said, I want to underline Scorpio. I have a stellium in Scorpio. It is perpetual transformation, but you work with that on a higher level. And what I want to say right now is the process of spiritual reawakening, which is what a solar eclipse is all about, is often through a means of catharsis. Not only that, with the eclipse and the Scorpio moon, we are also, friends, in astrologically, the moon's nodes are in Taurus and Scorpio, adding again that energy of death, change, renewal, and rebirth. Okay, let's talk about what October 25th, 2022 represents when we add it up. It is a triple digit. It's a 14-5. By that I mean everything gets broken down to one vibration. And it is through the number 14, 1 and 4, that we finalize the powerful energy of the 5. But let's talk about the number 14. And my first connection to that number was that it is basically the number of days the moon waxes and the number of days the moon wanes. And together it's 28 days, which is the cycle of the moon. And then I looked at the 14th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. I am doing more Kabbalistic research, understanding with the Tree of Life, with the major arcana. So the 14th letter was very important to me, and it was the Hebrew letter, or I should say alphabet, Nun, N-U-N, and the meaning is centered around a fish or something springing forth from water, or the primordial waters. Now the primordial waters we think of immediately as fertility and certainly life, because the womb is surrounded by water, and the process that we come into being is from the womb, which is filled with water. So there is this essence and idea, not only of fertility, of new growth, of Scorpio, but also of a generative power. This is all good. And Kabbalistically, the Hebrew letter Nun believe it or not, has been allotted to the death card in the tarot, and that's why I took it out. And many of you know that the astrological sign given to the death card is Scorpio. So here again, we have this connection of everything with the Hebrew letter, the number 14, the tarot card. Now, symbolically, the death card, of course, is going to represent change, liberation through the process of death and rebirth. But I wanted to do a little bit of the symbology here. Let me stand up and bring some of the numbers together. The armored skeleton. Now, the skeleton system is our bones. It's related to the earth, and it's our foundation. Without our skeleton, we would not have a body. That correlates to the number 4 in numerology. Then we look at the banner that he is holding, and it is a 5-petaled rose. The number 5, the main essence that we will be discussing here later on. That 5-petaled rose here in the banner symbolically relates to the planet Mars. Mars is the co-ruler of Scorpio, and 5 is related, of course, we know, to the Hierophant, and we will be discussing that number later. The other thing that is very unique about it is you heard me say that Nun represented a fish or fertility, a springing forth. Well, we see here we have a bishop, and his mitre is shaped like a fish. That, during the time of the tarot, represented the Piscean age. And that, my friend, ties in to where we now, astrologically, with ushering in or ushering out the Piscean age and the new Aquarius age. Now, there's mixed school of thoughts about that. Some believe that we are not completely in the Aquarius age, that there's an overlapping of energies. I truly believe that, and it is being played out by the 2 planets which represented Saturn and Uranus. Now, Saturn stands for structure, tradition, old establishments, and discipline. It's the task maker. Uranus is more liberating, more into uniting people, new thoughts, electrifying us, giving us technology that we haven't used before. But in short, there is an out of the old and in with the new, and there is a struggle in consciousness. There are some people, some beliefs, some countries that don't want the new thoughts, the new age, the new liberation, the clearing of what no longer serves us or works for us with the changing in time, in consciousness. So I do see that struggle also here symbolically with the Piscean age and where we are right now in the introduction of the Aquarius age. Okay, a little bit more about death. Of course, we know that it is a necessary process. And we said earlier, it basically wants to clear the past. And you see the past with leadership. Here we have a king who's down. Again, globally, a change in power, a change in leadership. And we have children. The new generation, which really welcomes and doesn't seem to fear the death card. And we have a woman who looks away, what she's fearing about the change, uncertainty, which I addressed earlier. And then we have the bishop who is just getting ready to be possibly trampled by the horse. So yes, death is certain. Death has to occur, and basically the card very quickly represents that as things decay, it fertilizes the ground so that there's a fertility time to replant again. The meaning of the water is that it is absorbed through the sun and into the clouds, and through that transformation, that metamorphosis, that water then becomes rain and nourishes, plenifuls the earth, and flows into different tributaries, the seas, the oceans, the rivers. But basically, the sun always rises, and we will talk about the dichotomy here, the two pillars. That energy is also played out continuously in the cards. The two pillars, the two chalices, the two energies, and they are opposing energies that need to be melded, rectified. That seems to be the theme. So we understand the importance of the death card and what it represents, but also when I looked up Nun in this card, there is in Kabbalah, there is an attribute, a word, and the word for Nun was imaginative intelligence. So to me, I look at it as rethinking. Imaginative intelligence, I believe, has to do with the Aquarius age, blending in the imagination, allowing for that energy to go into the rationale of the matter-of-fact Saturn, of black and white. This is the way it is, and you don't cross the line per se. So I think that was all very instrumental. The other thing that death reassures us that it guards us from inertia. Scorpio certainly represents that energy of the cyclical meaning of life, of what it has to take. All right, let's go to number 5. Now, number 5 is a number that corresponds to man. In fact, it's really, literally speaking, 5 is the number of man and humanity. Major changes and the process of transformation is upon us, literally, globally, and individually when I see this card, since the number 5 also relates to how we are changing. Now, the 5 senses of the human being is what is the gateway to how we process information, how we see, how we speak, what we hear, what we touch, what influences us, the foods that we eat. I really see a rethinking of healing, modalities of healing, better care of the body, out maybe with old concepts of what we need individually in the line of religion and our belief system. So I see that the number 5 certainly has to do with change, but I also see that in the Hierophant with his meaning, his essence. Now, to connect the number 5 to Nun, as I said I wanted to do here, Nun has a number value of 50. Now, 50 basically in numerology is just a higher octave of the number 5. The O, the cosmic egg, is a very spiritual, let's say, vibration behind any number that increases its qualities, its potency. So here I'm saying that it is increasing its consciousness, the attributes of the imaginative intelligence. 5 is also the number of the planet Mercury, Hermes, the quick-footed messenger god. And what does he do? Well, he teaches us, excuse me, the process of what is our intellect like? What is our thinking like? How do we relate and how do we communicate? What is the message of the messenger right now during this eclipse? So it is time to go within, another meaning of the Hierophant, to see the higher intelligence, our inner voice, what we know. The work knowing means our cellular tissue. We don't have to be taught it, we just know it. It seems to be hardwired within us. And this card is reminding us that our fears may be dissipated by remembering who we are, our potential. What is our foundation? What is our belief system? So the 5 and all of its energy may be asking us to purge when we went within what is toxic, what is limited, what is lifeless, what is numbing to us. What thoughts do I have that make my heart pound, make me hurt, maybe cry out? So here I see that this eclipse, which is usually a 6-month period of time, is a time to cleanse away and repair our thinking, to do a thorough cleansing. And we weave the energy further by adding the symbology of our own 5 senses. Yes, what we see, touch, taste, hear, smell, and how we can transform them through what the heart interpretates. And yes, 5 is also a number of the heart. It has to do with the astrological sign Leo, the 5th house, the 5th sign, and Leo physically has to do with the heart. The heart, of course, is love. Love is represented by the planet Venus in astrology, and Venus is very close to the sun and the moon during this new moon and the eclipse. So it is here. The Hierophant tarot card represents the zodiac sign Taurus. Of course, we know that Venus rules Taurus. So the concept of love and what the heart is telling us to transform is very important, to listen to what our heart is saying. Now, let's quickly go into Temperance here. Card number 14, because what I said earlier about the 5 senses and the gateway and how we're regenerating it, well, Temperance is all about regeneration. This theme, the theme of Scorpio, the theme of Pluto, and the angel of time, past and present, is here with the solar sun on the 3rd eye chakra, and saying there's a need to recognize, the need to find out what are our limitations. And globally, have we gone off our path? Have we been so busy gathering on a materialistic level that we haven't honored our spiritual nature? That is also part of the polarity that we're seeing. Are we giving both worlds? The world that we live on and the world that is within us, a higher power. Are we giving them both equal energy? Is there modification needing to be done here? This is all part of this essence, this interwoven energy that I see during this eclipse. Now, I also want us to look at back to the heart here, and when we do bring balance or right action through the heart, when we check in and we know the truth and we know what is right, and we may have done that through contemplation or meditation, then we become free to release that stagnation. That is again part of the reawakening that happens on this spiritual catharsis that is happening in the solar eclipse. And in our spiritual, let me get my little picture here. For those of us who work with the chakras, we know that the heart chakra is the fourth. Symbolically, it represents the three bottom chakras, lower chakras, and then above the heart chakras are the three higher chakras. This is our gateway. This is where we check in. We become honest. It is our sole purpose. It is our divinity. It's where in our hearts we know the difference between right and wrong. As we continue our spiritual journey, our spiritual unfoldment, then we have to come to the next chakra. That next chakra is number 5, okay? Now, number 5 is the number of the event, the higher octave, the 5th number, or the 5th arcana is the Hierophant. And symbolically, if we look at, and I'm going to stand up so you see it, again, another correlation here, we see that the Hierophant has a beautiful blue scarf, very much depicted around the throat chakra. The color blue. Now, the color blue is healing. The color blue is peaceful. And the color blue is also metaphysically having to do with transforming as we heal. How do we heal? Through the process of confession, voicing what was in our hearts as needing to be fixed, eliminated, purged, corrected, forgiven, redefined, whatever word you want to say. The next process from our heart is to speak it. Do you remember in being brought up as a Catholic, there is something called confession. Confession is a time of regularity for those practicing the Catholic faith, where you went to confession, was going into a booth, and you told the priests those things that you did which were, let's say, wrong. You missed the mark. You can even put the word where you felt like you had a white sin. But you confessed it, you liberated it, you expressed it, and someone gave you absolution and said, you're forgiven. Here's your penance. Do this and go away with peace of heart and mind. That is the same as what is the meaning here going on by the process of what we see in our spiritual working with the chakras and our bodies, our throat chakra. And we know that things get clogged up here when we don't express things. And we know that our hearts become burdened and hurt and block. So all of that is very much a part of the energy here that I'm seeing during this global event. This idea of changes maybe in how we see or how we practice our religion. Now, going back to the Hierophant and what I said earlier about looking at the difference in the polarities, and certainly the moon's nodes with Scorpio and Taurus, polar opposites. And we know that in the tarot it has to do with masculine and feminine energy. But here in the pillars of the Hierophant, it's much different than those of the High Priestess, where there is a black and a white one. But in the Kabbalah, we are seeing that because he is here a messenger of the gods, that he has, let's say, integrated the opposites, and it's also shown by the two keys here being interlocked together. I see the two pillars. We know that they are mercy and severity in the Kabbalah. Here, because of the global indications and where I wanted to relate it, I see that there's going to be changes with law and liberty. Again, looking for more freedom, clearing away of the faults, the debris, of the limitations, the veil that has stopped us from seeing many things. Now, on a personal level, we can also choose to see this as change in our own groundwork of how we are dealing with our life, our immortality. Have we changed our affiliation to religion, traditional religion, and now become more maybe spiritual or new thought? All of that also plays into the 5 card. Taurus and Venus also reminds us to ask, are we in alignment with our core values? That the true source of inner strength comes from the awareness of who we are and what we practice, what we show, what is our outward, are we authentic? What we see, who we are, and what we claim, what we prophesize. Is it really who we are? Is it our true being? Is it our spiritual practice on a daily basis? I think that also is a message here with Taurus and Venus. Now, there's, as I said earlier, there's also that air of concealment going on globally. We know that Scorpio is very much a secret sign, has secrets, but that the truth will be found. But we have to kind of balance them by understanding ourselves, our own limitations, what we value, what we need to eliminate, how we maybe even self-medicate, and in that moderation and finding a good balance, then we go within and come out redefined with a new identity, possibly after all this takes place. So we're blending all this together. through the chakra system, through the fourth chakra of the heart, because the heart, if we look at it on a physical level, we know that it has to do with the lymphatic system, the thymus. The lymphatic system clears things away from our bodies. All those impurities within us have to be eliminated. Again, it seems to resonate with the process of these cards, these signs, this influence. Now, metaphysically and spiritually, the heart chakra is the integrator of what I said earlier, the gateway between our lower selves and our spiritual body, mind, and soul. And looking at where we are right now in our own spiritual unfoldment. So relating all this to the card number 5, the Hierophant, I think is, as I said earlier, the gist of this energy. Redefining who we are, understanding and accepting our little sins, declaring them, letting them go. Doing the work, eliminating whatever is impure in our minds and even in our bodies. A new regime of clearing out our bodies. I know I gave a lot of information. I hope it wasn't confusing. And in that process, I decided, you know what? I want to leave it with a simple thought, because you can listen to this over and over again. But I took the number 1, 4, and 5 and try to make it into a simple, let's say, affirmation. And it is I, which represents the number 1. I is our ego. It is our identity. I, who is the creator of my present reality. That's the foundation. That's your 4. That's your skeleton. That's the 4 elements within you. That's your home. That is your foundation, what you've created. Can now make necessary changes. 5 is all about changes, but I have to relinquish. I have to take away in order to create and restore balance and harmony in my life. So we have number 1, identity, number 4, my foundation, and number 5, what I relinquish, what I adjust, what I change. Now let me read it without those. I, who is the creator of my present reality, can now make necessary changes in order to create and restore balance and harmony in my life. All right, friends. Thank you for listening to this very long video. I just wanted to explain everything. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or put it in the comment section. But I wish everyone a harmonious, peaceful time during this new moon, and certainly during the solar eclipse. The gift of the heart, the gift of knowledge, the gift that is there if we seek it, for everyone. Much love. Bye for now.